matters that affect our lives, here on health and in the hereafter. I'm your regular presenter on the program, Abdulrazak Solid Bailani. Today, inshallah, we are going to be looking into the topic, the religion Muhammad brought us. It is not uncommon to hear people claim to belong to a particular religion. In our environment, many people say they are Christians. Many people say they are Muslims. But all these things are claims. When we look at whom people claim that Muhammad was, you start asking yourself whether Muhammad was like that, and whether what we see about religion today is what Muhammad actually brought. When we look at people who claim to be Christians, we ask ourselves whether what we see about Christianity today is what Jesus actually brought. This is right today. Our man, Dr. Muhammad Al-Harakatul, will be talking to us on the religion Muhammad brought us. Allah.
الحمد لله الذي أدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن أدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his guidance over us. Definitely, if he has not chosen to guide us, we would not have been guided. And we pray that Allah continues to shower his everlasting blessing upon the soul of the prophets of God, from Adam to Muhammad and all the believers, then, now, and forever. Amen. As we have been informed, in this season of the moments of the birth of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is Rabiul Awwal, and the immediate following month, which is Rabiul Thani, we deem it important to really look at the religion Muhammad brought us. The question that will come to the mind of our viewers, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, is what do they want to say? Especially the Muslims amongst us will say, what do they want to tell us? The religion Muhammad brought us is Islam. Of course it is Islam, but is it the way we look at it? Is it actually what we call it? These are the questions that we must answer. And the next thing is for the Muslims especially to say, what do they want to tell us about our religion? We were born there. Our fathers and forefathers were Muslims. We were never reverted. Because of that, what really do they want to tell us about Islam? Well, we are not saying new thing, but we are saying different thing. Simply because the way it has been is not the way it should be. And for the non-Muslims too, if we ask, or if they hear the religion Muhammad brought us, they will be quick at saying, is it not the religion which we witness all over the world, which encourages begging, street begging? We see their children around. Is it not the religion that encourages child trafficking or child labor, as we see in many Muslim lands? Is it not the religion of violence? Is it not the one that tells them to be hoodwinking people around? Do we not go to their areas, the Muslim populated areas? Do we not see their women? Is it not the religion that discourages education and science and technology? This is the way some of the Muslims, some of the non-Muslims see the thing. Of course, the non-Muslims will be divided into two in looking at this topic, because it is not all the non-Muslims that are showing the service about Islam. Of course, there are some of them who actually appreciate, and they still do appreciate, impact and the importance which Islam as a religion, as a way of life, and as a civilization has played, and they still actually appreciate it now. They may not look with scorn at Islam. Of course, they will definitely have their reservation. Some of the times they are not wrong. They are not wrong. They are only acting based on what they observe. It is important for us to explain to them, and explain more even to the Muslims who do not know Islam, Because in the Muslims category, whether among the educated Muslims, or even the illiterate Muslims, or even among the scholars of Islam, or even the students, or the rulers who are Muslims, or even the ruled, the way they perceive this religion Muhammad brought us differ. Among them are those who take religion to be just, is it not going to pray 5 times a day? Is it not just jumping up and down, or going to the mosque? There are those who see religion as a legacy which their parents give them, especially among the scholars of Islam. They look at religion as the opportunity to cheat their followers because they believe they are the inheritors of that legacy. And that is the way they look at it. They see Islam as the power they must wield over others. The same thing for students who see Islam as the moment of exuberance and utopian, when they just need to just jump up and down, and especially just claim what they may never be able to practice in future when they go into adulthood. These are the ways several Muslims themselves see Islam. In fact, there are Muslims who just see Islam as the spiritual area where they must go and solve their problems. Or people who just believe that Islam is something you use for prayers. Or even people who go to the extent of using it just to portray or to serve their own purposes. And against the backdrop of some research works that were done very recently in Arab lands, when a sizable portion of Muslim students in some of the tertiary institutions were sampled, they discovered that in such an area where there are virtually 100% Muslims in their population, only less than 30% of those Muslim students pray 5 times daily regularly. Out of the remaining 30%, out of the 30% that pray regularly, it means the remaining 70% do not pray regularly, and they are Muslims. Out of these 30% that pray, they discover that even only about 20% have their prayers regularly. Out of the 20% that have their prayers regularly, only about 9 to 12% have strong knowledge of what they do in prayers. And out of the 9 to 12% who have strong knowledge of the religion, out of the 100%, they discover that only about 3 to 5% take Islam as a complete way of life. You can imagine if such can happen in Arab land, where they consider Islam as indigenous to them. What happens in Asia? What happens in African continent? What do you talk of when you talk of Eastern and Western Europe, or even the North American Canada? How do you look at it? That is why it is important, especially during this time, to see what really is the religion Muhammad brought us. Well, we are all aware that in the hadith of An-Nawawi, the second hadith, I will briefly narrate what happened. This hadith was related by Sayyidina Umar radhiyallahu anhu, the second Khalifa of the Prophet. He said, بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات يوم إذ طلع علينا رجل. While we were seated with the Prophet on a day, a man approached us. The description of the man was that his hair was dark and his clothing was completely white, such that we could not depict the presence of a stranger or a traveler in him. That we did not know him. He sat with us and sat with the Prophet with his thigh, with his knee adjacent to that of the Prophet, and placing his own hands on the thigh of the Prophet. The man just said, "Oh Muhammad, akhbirni anil Islam." Oh Muhammad, tell me of Islam. In the narration, he said, Muhammad said, Islam is this. Promptly the man said, "So doctor, you have spoken the truth." The man went on to ask further questions. Akhbirni anil iman. Tell me about faith. So Rasulullah went on to tell him that you should have faith in God, in the angels, in the books of God, in the messenger sent, and in destiny and development. The man said, oh, so doctor, you have spoken the truth equally. The man went on, أخبرني عن الإحسان, tell me of good. The Prophet explained. The man went further, أخبرني عن الساعة, tell me of the time, the end of time. The Prophet explained. Towards the end of the hadith, the Prophet, the man left. Umar said that he tarried with the Prophet a time longer. And the Prophet asked him, oh Umar, do you know that person who had just come now? He said, oh Prophet, only you, only Allah and you, His messenger, know who he is. The Prophet said, that was Jibreel. Atakum yu'allimukum dinakum. He had come to you so that he will enlighten you about your religion. What religion did Archangel Jibreel come to tell the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet? Of course, yes. He needed to expatiate on what the Prophet is saying so that the import and the importance of that thing they are holding will dawn on them. And this is why we still need in the world of today to explain this religion Muhammad had brought us. It is known that Al-Islam ad-Din wa Dawla. This religion of ours is both conventional religion and politics, or so to say, state affairs. That means it is not only extra-worldly, but also mundane. That means our religion takes care of this world and hereafter. This means Islam is a comprehensive way of life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself explained this to us in the Quran when he says, مَا فَرَطْنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. We have not left anything out of our explanation in the book. And he says further, especially during the last years the Prophet spent, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. This day have I perfected for you your religion. I have completed my favor upon you, and I have chosen for you Islam as your religion. Therefore, what is this religion which Muhammad brought us? Of course, we know that during the last time the Prophet ﷺ spent with us, he gave us the last sermon, during which those who are there were shedding tears because of the import of what the Prophet ﷺ was conveying and the moment of that message, because it signified to the listeners then that Muhammad had completed his job, he was about to leave. And among the things Muhammad told us and made us to realize is that this religion is not just talking about faith, it's not just telling you how you are going to relate with God, it's not just explaining to you how you are going to deal with your soul. This religion of Islam is telling you everything about your life. And that is one thing, the glory nobody can take away from Islam, is that Islam came to be an explanation of everything, of all things. Islam is the one that told us who Allah is in unambiguous terms, so that a Muslim cannot have doubt about who Allah is. In fact, some of the things that can ordinarily bring doubt into the minds of an ordinary person, Islam says no, do not go to that realm. For instance, in the book of jurisprudence, it is said, meditate over the sifat of God, that means the attributes of God. Do not meditate over his person, over his nature. Because if you want to meditate over the person of God, over the nature of God, the next thing is that you start thinking in your mind, you start conjuring up within your mind, does God have eyes, 2 eyes, the way we have it? Does he have a head? How many hands and how many fingers does he possess? What type of tummy does he have? What type of complexion does God have? And by the time you start thinking of God in such a limited physical term, you will discover that you are going to misunderstand God. This is why in the book of jurisprudence and theology of Islam, it is said, do not meditate over the physical nature of God, meditate over his attributes. Yes, what are the attributes of God? He hears, he sees, he knows, he's the one who provides, he's the creator, he's the fashioner, he's the maintainer, he cares for us, he's the first, the last, the one who is hidden, the one who is plain. Those are the attributes of God which it's expected that men should ponder over. But you cannot ponder over the nature of God. This is part of the explanation which clarifies the mind which Islam gives us. The Islam tells us about who God is, how you should relate with God, the position God must occupy in man's life. Not only that, Islam tells us of our antecedents. For instance, Allah made the Prophet ﷺ to tell us that we are all kulukum bani Adam, wa Adam min turabi. Oh men, know that you are all from Adam, and Adam is from dust. Islam tells us, Muhammad ﷺ brought us a religion that tells us our antecedents, where we came from, Adam Darri, who we were before we even come to be fetuses in the bosom of our mothers, how the transfer of semen and the mixture with egg, sperm and egg, how they come to give us our nature. Islam tells us of the nature of the world we are in. Islam tells us our own nature. Islam tells us what should be the relationship between us and even the ants that walk the streets. Islam tells us what should be the relation between us and even the domestic animals, between us and the air, between us and several other things. Islam gives such a very comprehensive explanation of what we should and how we should relate. That is not the only thing. Islam is able to harmonize for us the struggle that you otherwise have arisen between our soul as a spiritual entity and our body as a physical entity. Therefore, Islam has come to explain to us what soul and spirit, what they are, and the position they occupy in man's life. Islam has explained to us what are the physical things that we must do. Islam has touched the psychological aspect of man and man's life. Islam goes up to the mental perspective and intellectual perspective of man. And this is why whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks, He will say, Inna fi dhalika la'ibra li'ulil abrar. Certainly in these are lessons for those who can think. Because Islam knows that man is not just like an ordinary animal. Man has sense of intellect, sense of mentality that should make man to ponder and to therefore determine, to allow man to determine what is right and what is wrong. Islam equally appreciates the fact that we are social beings who must have a way of relating not only with friends and colleagues, but with the elderly ones, with the younger ones, even with strangers and the people who oppose us. Islam allows, and the Prophet ﷺ left us with a religion that was not just theoretical. Because Muhammad ﷺ, when he came, he met a community that was very depraved, a community that had no mercy for the people that are weak, a community that did not know how to relate with the animals and with the other creatures with whom they were living. Islam, Rasulullah, when he came, he saw men who were so heartless as to, without losing their mentality, without losing their head, I mean, without being mad, without being insane, they were so heartless as to dip and bury their own daughters, born of their own blood, alive. They were so heartless to that level. Islam came to meet a people that were completely amoral. They did not appreciate what it is to be morally upright. They do not see anything in the institution of family. They do not have any respect for marital life. They do not think that marriage has anything to do with life. They do not think that somebody who cheats should be caught and should be punished. They do not think anything is wrong with the strong hoodwinking the poor, and there's some clans that are powerful just taking over the properties of the clans that are weak. It's like Muhammad ﷺ came to meet such a people, a depraved set of people, a people that were uncivilized and barbaric and ignorant. Rasulullah ﷺ came to such a people. He came to an environment where people were more animalistic than the domestic animals. Rasulullah ﷺ did not only give them the theories that man is a product of God, man is answerable and accountable to God, and man eventually has come to this world as a test, as a trial. He's on journey, and when he goes back after his death, he will have to account to the being who created him in the first place, and who is the one able and capable to call him to account about what he has done. Prophet did this. The 63 years Prophet lived in Mecca and in Medina made these people to rise up. They became balanced human beings, people who could appreciate what position soul is in their life, people who became tender towards the younger ones, people who became tender and respectable towards the elderly ones. Muhammad taught them that ليس منا من لم يوقر صغيرنا ولم من لم يوقر كبيرنا ولم يرحم صغيرنا. It's not of us. That person who has no respect for the elderly ones is not of us. And that person who is not tender towards the younger ones is not of us. Muhammad told them, Muhammad did not only tell them this, Muhammad displayed it. In fact, Muhammad so displayed that sometimes when Muhammad was praying, it was noted that Muhammad would carry his own grandsons, Hassan and Hussein, and he would be bowing with them, he would be standing in prayers with them, he would be prostrating with them. He gave this community that opportunity of not only knowing the theories of this pristine purity of Islam, but even the practical side of it. And Muhammad gave us a religion that told us how man could relate with God in the mosque, how man will relate with God when he has children, how man will relate to God when he's a wife, how man will relate with God when he is a daughter or a son, and so many ways. Up to the point that even in the war front, the laws, the rules, the human rules, even before the Charter of Human Rights, and so on, before the Magna Carta of the 13th century in the British Empire, before it came, Muhammad had already told us what fundamental human rights are, and how you must obey, how you must observe the rights of others, your responsibilities to your community. And Islam came, Muhammad came to give us a religion that was able to beat a balance between the community as a group and the individual within the community. A problem that is still existing today. Who is greater and who is more responsible and who is more important, the individual or the community? Muhammad came to give us such a religion, and by the time Muhammad was leaving us, he told us, لَن تَدُلُّوا مَا تَمَسَّكْتُمْ. Muhammad at the last sermon was saying, I'm leaving you. Oh, Allah Akbar. The companions, the men among them, the women among them, the top Sahaba, they were weeping because Muhammad was announcing his own departure. He was telling them that his earthly life had ended and he was bound towards God. Oh, and the Sahaba, the companions, they got the message. All of them were weeping. In that last sermon, Muhammad said, oh, men, know that your wives are trusts in your hands from God. Treat them well. And this is why in the Islamic heritage, where Islam is being practiced, the women are respected. And this is the reason why the women are told to respect themselves by not being naked and not turning themselves into fashion or exhibits or exhibition for people to just play with. These are the things Muhammad told us. And by the time Muhammad told us, oh, I'm leaving, but go into the book of God. I've left it for you. Let it be your guide when I'm away. Go into my practices, the Sunnah, the Hadith, which he left us. Go into it. Now go to the guide. And remember that Muhammad did not only go after giving us a spiritual empire. Muhammad gave us a political empire, which manned by people like Sayyidina Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, and all the other Sahaba and the leading companions. They manned it, and they were able to let us know how a leader should relate with the rules, how the community should serve, and how the people can act, and the rights and responsibilities due one another. These are the things, and this is the religion Muhammad left for us. Oh, the question is, as asked by Professor Montgomery Watt, the Muslims of today. Montgomery Watt, Professor Montgomery Watt, he was not a Muslim, but he said he agreed that if the Muslims claim that Muhammad was the best man that lived on the surface of the earth, he does not disagree. But can the Muslims claim to be the best species of today's world? This is a question the Muslims must answer today. And if they refuse to answer it today, posterity will force them to answer it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This week, Malam has spoken to us on the religion Muhammad brought us. And he has concluded by asking whether the Muslims believe they are the best species for mankind today. And that if this question is not answered, posterity will fall all of us. Well, the religion Muhammad brought us is one that is in the mosque and also on the streets. One that is in the book. Action. Viewers, you are welcome to this edition of the Searchlight. I'm Joe on the program at Razak for the Day. Today, we have our regular guest, Dr. Muhammad Ali Olukade, to discuss with us the concept of decency. It is not uncommon to hear people talk about the need for decency in both private and public life. We have organizations, governmental, whether sincerely or instead, talk about the need for decency in our life. This is why today, Madam will be talking to us on the Islamic concept of decency. Listen.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. We are grateful once again to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all his numerous blessings and grace over us. Of course, the greatest of his blessings upon us is the fact that he has guided us aright. We are, as earlier been informed, trying to look at the Islamic concept of decency. It is not strange in our world today for people to want to disagree over what is decent and what is indecent, especially when, as it were today, we consider decency very relative and nobody wants to care whether there should be a natural or universal standard set for decency. Of course, every environment will have what they consider decent and what they consider indecent. But should we subject an important code of our life as decency to such whims and caprices of men? Should we not have a general understanding and a common agreement over this language and usage? What will Islam tell us about it? And how do we as Muslims apply such in our lives? And what can the non-Muslims amongst us learn from Islam vis-a-vis decency? This is why we think we should look into this word and discuss it, especially when some people are subjecting such universal language to personal human whims and caprices. and they feel that, well, nobody needs to bother about what I do, for as long as it's agreeable to me, then no comment. Such things should not be welcome. Otherwise, our society will degenerate into that of sheer animals. And eventually, there will not be law and order in our environment. There must be some things that should be generally agreed as being decent. And any indecent act or action should be reprimanded, or at least should be visited with some words of caution, such that people can be encouraged to live decently, and people can be discouraged over indecency. But we must have a conceptual basis or a conventional word. That means we must have a working definition for this discussion. Otherwise, we shall not be guided through the discussion. This takes us to the question of how do we define decency? Of course, if we are to visit dictionaries and books of common usages, which have different perspectives and explanations as to what constitutes decency and what constitutes indecency. But for our working definition in this discussion, we want to say that decency can be looked at as cultured and measured attitudes which will be commonly appealing to man and acceptable to the Almighty. I think it's extremely important to measure these words and to be conscious of the words we have used in defining decency. It's important for us to appreciate that something cannot be indecent when it is not acceptable to our Creator. Therefore, the primary thing in decency is that it should not be an act or action or behavior or deed that is not acceptable to the owner of the world. The second thing is that it should be something that is generally appealing. That means we agree. In the community, it is agreed that this is decent. And within the community, it should be agreed that this is indecent. That is the second thing. The other thing in this definition is the question of the fact that decency has to do with attitude. And attitude will include our acts, our deeds, our behaviors, our appearances, and so on and so on. But this attitude will be considered decent when our culture allows it and when we are measured. This is why we will discover that decency as an act can be both absolute and relative. Absolute in the sense that it must be acceptable to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when an action is undertaken, or a deed is done, or an activity is engaged in that is disagreeable to God or unacceptable to Him, absolutely it becomes an indecent act. And such thing cannot be measured, cannot be taken to any other parameter. For instance, in the present world, about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, in Massachusetts, one of the states in America, United States of America, they have now legalized single-sex, same-sex marriage. That means a man can be married to a man, and a woman can be married to a woman. And lo and behold, many people, even outside the state of Massachusetts in the United States, are going to Massachusetts in order to obtain the license, which shows that they wanted it. So they have just gotten a leeway, and they are now taking it. Can we subject the matter of marriage to such whims and caprices of men? Definitely. If tomorrow, if we subject such to such whims and caprices of men, tomorrow a frog and a man are going to go into the registry for marriage. This is why it is extremely important for us in the definition of what is decent and what is indecent to all agree that we must be able to appreciate that any action that is disagreeable to the divine entity and unacceptable to the Lord of man is not decent. And that is why decency can be an absolute term. Of course, there are the other facets which we can cite as example in the absolutism in decency. But not all decent acts can be said to be absolute. Some of the decent acts are relative to the environment, relative to the person, relative to the community, and relative to the nation. And we are going to have examples of them. And this is why, secondarily, decency can be relative. And that is why we have said that for our working definition, decency will be an attitude or attitudes that are cultured, measured, appealing to man, that means agreeable to the environment and acceptable to God. In such instance, it can be universal, but with peculiar circumstances. And this is why the one that is universal there is the absolute part, and the one that is relative is one that is peculiar to a group of people. And decency can come in our speeches, and we can't be indecent in speeches. Decency can come in our appearance, and we can equally be indecent in appearance. Decency can come in our social relationship and behaviors. Also, we can be decent or indecent in our moral behaviors, and we can be decent and indecent in our religious activities, and equally in economic enterprises. So decency, as a matter of attitude, is something that can pervade the totality of our lives. And this is why Rasulullah told us that Al-Harakatul min al-Iman, modesty or decency is part of faith. When somebody is living indecently, and when somebody is behaving indecently, that person is not pious. We will recall that there was a man who was seen by the Prophet one time, and the man was shabby in dressing, and the man was shabby in clothing, up to the point that the man's hair was unkempt. In fact, Rasulullah recommended the man and said, "Why couldn't you comb your hair? You look like shaitan." That means it is possible for somebody to be indecent in appearance. And since the Prophet has told us that our appearances, our modesty, our decency is part of our faith, when somebody becomes indecent, either to God or to man, the person becomes irreligious. And this is why we want to look at some ayahs of the Quran that gives us this universal guideline, which we intend prescribing for the whole world about Islamic decency. Of course, when we say we want to universalize decency, we will equally be appreciative of the cultural peculiarities of each people. For instance, the Prophet ﷺ in greeting told us to greet ourselves. In fact, Rasulullah ﷺ told us that when we cultivate the habit of greeting, in the first case, the person who first greets has more reward than the person who answers the greeting. You can see how decent the Prophet has told us. Therefore, the average person, the average Muslim, meeting the other person will be fast in extending the hand of greeting, not just as a matter of human gesture, but because it becomes part of faith. And that's what Rasulullah said, you should spread salam amongst yourselves. You should spread the word of peace. You should not only express the word, but you should also live in peace with your neighbors and your family members and others. That means you do not unnecessarily create enemies or enmity between you and any other person. We are going to look at some parts of the Quran, specifically Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17 of the glorious Quran. And starting from around verse 25 to around verse 36, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us on and on what actions we can see that constitute decency, and warning us against some actions that can constitute indecency. It is not only that. If we look at Quran chapter 31, Surah Al-Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us of the admonition which Luqman gave to his son, and all these things constitute the acts of decency. As we go along, we will be able to quote the appropriate quotes that will concern us, but we have decided to subtitle this into moral decency, which will include decency in speech making, decency in appearance, decency in social relationship and behaviors. How does the young one behave towards the elderly ones? How does the elderly one treat the young one? What should be the social relationship? What is decent in man-to-man relationship? And what becomes indecent in man-to-man? For decided, as we've said earlier, to divide all the aforementioned and tag them and subtitle them moral decency. We are intent to look into what constitutes religious decency equally. And we can go into political decency and economic decency. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits, we shall be quoting the Quran for the hadith of the Prophet or other weddings of wisdom as we go along. For instance, it is known that when Luqman alayhi salatu wasalam called the child in accordance with Quran chapter 31, verse 13, I will briefly quote. Allah says, وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا بني إنها إن تكن مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بالله إن الله لطيف خبير يا بني أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف ونهى عن المنكر واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور واقصد في مشيك واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات لصوت الأمير صدق الله العظيم. Well, if I were to do the translation, it will be lost upon us, but I will just pick the necessary portion that has to do with moral decency in speech. He said, وَلَا تُصَعِّرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ مُخْتَالٍ فَخُورٍ. And turn your face away from men. Turn not your face away from men with pride, nor walk in arrogance. Inna Allah la yuhibbu kulla mukhtalin fakhur. For Allah does not like the arrogant people who are haughty. It is known that when somebody is making speech, Islam tells us you should not raise your voice among the people. In fact, it's part of indecency for your own voice to be raised when other people are speaking low. And when you are at a meeting and you are allowed to speak, you should realize that whatever you have said to them may constitute bad omen to them. And this is why the Prophet has told us that whenever we are allowed to speak, we should thereafter seek forgiveness from God. Or if we are disallowed from speaking, we should thank God for perchance our speech could have misled the community. You see, Prophet Luqman, alayhi salatu wasalam, so to say, as some people will refer to him, has said, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ مُخْتَالٍ فَخُورٍ. And when you walk, Do not walk arrogantly, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like the people that are arrogant boaster. Therefore, the decency in speech is that, number one, when you talk, do not talk above the people you are addressing, and do not talk below them. When you talk in the language that is generally understood by people. It is indecent when you are in a gathering where some people understand your own local language and some people do not understand, for you to not deliberately speak your local language, which will not be understood to the other people that are seated. In that instance, you can be mistaken for a fraudster. Somebody wants to cheat the other person. So in speech, it is not just enough that you not talk about the people. You should speak the language they do understand, and you should be respectful when you speak unto them. For you too will not like that people should address you in a way that is disagreeable to you. That is decency in speech. And it is not just enough, you must not speak fasha, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in Quran chapter 23, verses 1 to around 11, Allah says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتٍ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. The important ayah here is وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ, those who shun vain talks. Decency in speech includes that we must not be talking vain. And unfortunately, in our environment, we revel in it. In fact, people that can tell lies, that can misrepresent issues, that can jest, people that can be talking nonsense, they are regarded as award winners. That shows the indecency that has pervaded our environment, up to the point that young boys and girls have to learn indecent talk in order for them to seek recognition. This type of behavior is extremely bad. And it is not enough from our definition to say, after all, people welcome it. They even give people award when they do so. Because it is unacceptable to Allah, it becomes indecent as much as the society wants, and they are even giving money or prominence to people that are indecent in speeches. Unfortunately, people have even elevated lie-telling to act of display, up to the point that even politicians will deliberately coin words which amount to lie-telling to the populace. The person that is addressing people wants to add some lie for the people he's talking to be impressed. This constitutes indecent speeches. What of appearance? Oh, so many of us have been caught in such a web because our appearances are quite bad. We have become so indecent in our appearances that people will feel that nobody needs to comment and nobody needs to watch what we wear. Of course, we should wear what is decent. For instance, a situation where somebody will be naked, showing the parts that should ordinarily be covered, or somebody will be wearing scanty dresses, or somebody will be wearing see-through, a dress that is transparent, or a dress that is too tight, a dress that is uncomfortable or unconventional. All these things constitute decency, indecency in appearance. And Rasulullah has told us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, this is why Islam has prescribed the basic minimum dressing, not only for women and for men. In fact, Islam has equally prescribed the dressing even for children. Therefore, how do we appear? It is not just in dressing, even in our appearance. I've narrated to us the case of somebody who appeared shabbily with the hair not combed. The Prophet ﷺ equated such a person with shaitan. That means that was indecent of the person. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that we must be decent in appearance. In fact, there's a noble hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, the best amongst you is the one whose appearance calls for the remembrance of God. That means when we appear, we are worshiping God. And when we appear, we are selling decency and we are advertising decency. So if your appearance is selling or advertising indecency, then you are not only committing sin against God, you are committing sin against humanity. What of our social relationship? It is known that Islam encourages that the young ones must be the first to greet the elderly ones. And they should greet them in a language that is respectable and generally agreeable. Of course, Assalamu alaikum is the universal word or the universal language with which we greet ourselves. That means peace be upon you. The peace that means from the prophetic understanding should come straight from the young one, and the elderly one can say wa alaikum salam. Imagine a situation where you have the young one who makes it a matter of importance to first greet the adult. The adult will be very happy and will pray for such young ones. And in later life, the young one, when it becomes elderly, will actually enjoy staying from younger people. The same thing for decency, the man-to-man relationship. As I've said earlier, Islam does not agree to homosexualism. Islam does not agree to lesbianism. And no matter what code of conduct human decree for themselves that makes such a thing legal, as far as Islam is concerned, it's indecent. And such a thing Islam cannot condone. These are part of the thing when we talk of moral decency. How does a man behave to another man? How does a group behave to another group? It is known that Rasulullah's specification is that the person who is singular should be the one to greet the people that are many. That means a person should greet the jama'ah. And these are part of the decency we talk of when you talk of behaviors. We can go on and on, but we will need to stop here because of the time that's available. Hopefully, Allah will make us to continue with this discussion, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Today, Mana must discuss the Islamic concept of decency. Well, there is the musician's perspective of decency. There is the artist's perspective. There may be the jester perspective also. Today, the perspective of a caller to the path of Allah has been presented. And like Allah says, وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى قَوْلًا يَأْخُذُ سَبِيلَهُ. And once again, the man has come from the path of the city. Keep saying, follow the path of the Muslims. We hope to come back next week, inshallah. Until then, don't be all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
وما اختلف الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءهم